3 muscle cars that were all show, no go. Welcome back to Vintage Wheels Chronicles. Not every muscle car from the golden era was a fire-breathing beast. Some looked fast and powerful, but under the hood, they were barely more than cosmetic kings. Today, we're exposing 3 muscle cars that were all show, no go, flashy on the outside, but disappointing on the drag strip. 1. 1976 Chevrolet Camaro Rally Sport V6 inline-6 models. The 1976 Camaro Rally Sport had all the visual flair of a true muscle car. Its aggressive front end, two-tone paint, and flared fenders made it look ready to race. But if you looked under the hood, you might be shocked. Many Rally Sport models came with a 250 cubic inch inline-6 engine, not exactly heart racing. With just around 105 horsepower, it was painfully slow for something that looked so mean. It took over 13 seconds just to get to 60 miles per hour, which wouldn't intimidate anyone. This wasn't the legendary SS or Z28 Camaro. This was a styling package in disguise. Chevrolet knew the RS looked great, and they leaned heavily into that with decals and stripes. But performance? That was an afterthought. The 1976 model year came during the height of emissions regulations. Engines were choked by smog gear, and horsepower figures plummeted. Despite its muscle car appearance, the RS was more bark than bite. Car buyers were often lured in by the looks and disappointed on the test drive. It had wide tires and sport mirrors, but the engine struggled to back up the image. The Rally Sport trim was really just a cosmetic upgrade. Even the V8 options available were detuned to underwhelming levels. This Camaro was more of a cruiser than a bruiser. If you were hoping to roast tires or win drag races, you were in for a letdown. The interior was sporty, but shared parts with more mundane GM cars. It looked the part, but that's where the fun mostly stopped. In fairness, it handled decently thanks to a low center of gravity, but without power, it couldn't live up to its own hype. A true muscle car needs muscle, and the 76 RS fell short. It was built during a tough time for performance cars. Gas prices, insurance rates, and emissions all worked against it. Still, for someone who wanted the image without the ticket risk, it worked. Today, it's a reminder that not all Camaros were created equal. If any car screamed all show, no go, it was this version of the Rally Sport. Modern enthusiasts often swap V8s into them, something GM should have done in the first place. The 1976 Camaro RS teaches us that a muscle car needs more than just looks. 2. 1978 Ford Mustang II King Cobra. The King Cobra name sounds like it should strike fear into any rival. And with its bold graphics, blacked-out trim, and full aero kit, the Mustang II King Cobra sure looked the part. But pop the hood, and you'll find a 302 cubic inch V8 making just 139 horsepower. That's right, barely more power than a modern economy car. The Mustang II platform was already a departure from the muscle car formula. Smaller, heavier, and saddled with weak performance, it was a far cry from the original 60s Mustangs. The King Cobra package was all about aggressive styling, not real speed. You got a flashy snake decal, spoilers, fender flares, and a louvered rear window. But none of that made it any faster. The car took over 10 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour, which wasn't thrilling by any standard. Its 3-speed automatic sapped even more life from the engine. Ford tried to hype it as a performance car, but the numbers didn't lie. Handling was sloppy, the brakes were mediocre, and straight-line speed was non-existent. The King Cobra did little to restore the Mustang's tarnished image. Many enthusiasts consider it one of the weakest Mustangs ever made. And yet people still bought it, because it looked cool. It was flashy, different, and had curb appeal. But as a muscle car, it was a major letdown. Inside, it had sporty seats and a unique dash, but nothing truly performance-oriented. Ford used the King Cobra name to try and revive Mustang excitement, but it fell flat. This car is now a curiosity, loved by collectors for its rarity and retro style, but when it comes to performance, it simply doesn't deliver. A modern EcoBoost Mustang would leave it in the dust without trying. It had the name, the image, and the marketing, just not the muscle. Even compared to late 70s competition, the King Cobra was slow. Today it's remembered more for its appearance than its achievements. It's a great example of style over substance in the muscle car world. A true King Cobra should strike, not sputter. This one had the looks of a predator, but the heart of a house cat. Still, it's a fun piece of history, a cautionary tale with killer decals. 3. 1980 Pontiac Trans Am Turbo. By 1980, the mighty Trans Am had been tamed, and the turbo model was a symbol of that decline. It still had the aggressive styling, shaker hood, flared fenders, and the iconic Firebird on the hood. But under that shaker was a 4.9-liter turbocharged V8 making just 210 horsepower. On paper, that sounds okay, but in reality, it struggled to perform. The turbo lag was brutal, and throttle response was slow. The car was heavy, tipping the scales at nearly 3,800 pounds. With an automatic transmission and emissions restrictions, performance suffered badly. It took nearly 9 seconds to get from 0 to 60 miles per hour, sluggish for a supposed muscle car. Handling was soft, and the brakes didn't inspire confidence. The turbo name gave hope for speed, but that hope was rarely fulfilled. It looked fast, sounded good, and had a reputation to live up to, but the actual driving experience was disappointing. It couldn't match the glory days of earlier 455-powered Trans Ams. Despite the high-tech promise of turbocharging, Pontiac's system wasn't very advanced. The turbo was prone to heat issues and lacked intercooling. Even in its day, the turbo Trans Am was criticized for being more show than go, but credit where it's due. It still looked amazing. The body kit, wheels, and styling were peak late 70s muscle. It was the official pace car of the 1980 Indy 500, adding to its legacy. But pace car or not, it didn't bring serious pace to the street. Pontiac tried to evolve with the times, but the result was more cosmetic than performance. Inside, it had futuristic digital gauges and cool styling touches, yet none of that changed how sluggish it felt behind the wheel. The turbo badge promised performance but delivered mild manners. For collectors, it's a cool throwback, especially with T-tops and W6 suspension. But as a muscle car, it was more about image than action. The Trans Am Turbo looked like it could fly, but it barely jogged. It represents a time when muscle cars lost their bite but kept their bark. Today, it's a collector's piece, not a performance benchmark. It's one of the best-looking letdowns of the era, a muscle car that ran out of muscle.
These 3 muscle cars proved that looks can be deceiving. They had the style, the names, and the attitude, but not the speed. Let us know in the comments if you've ever owned one of these, or if there's another all-show no-go car you'd add to the list. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Only on Vintage Wheels Chronicles for more muscle car truths and legends.